Before I jump into a ton of other questions, let's get to know you a little bit better, Carly.
Yeah.
What's your background? What's your story?
Yeah, well, born and raised in Vancouver, British Columbia here. I've always enjoyed working and starting little side projects and businesses ever since I was very young. So I started working in different retail stores, and quickly, as the sort of young person in the room in a lot of these jobs early in my career, was handed the phone or the computer and said, "You do the social media." And I realized I really enjoy it. And I didn't even know that that was a career path you could have. So I quickly stopped working at some of these companies and would just go around and sort of trade social media services in high school for all the things I needed. And at the time, social was quite new for people. And that's how I sort of got into doing social media marketing. And early in my career, I was lucky to be mentored by someone who had a marketing agency. And that's where I started to develop my interest in writing and sort of more of the other types of content marketing out there. And then, fun fact for everyone, Andrew and I met through one of his courses on SEO marketing. So that's when I added SEO into the mix and really sort of powered up the social, the content, and how SEO plays into all that.
Yeah, that was at Brain Station. I remember that.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So my follow-up questions were how you got into digital marketing and social media and content marketing, but you've really answered that. Is there anything in particular that you really like about, say, the landscape now, and the different platforms and tools that are out there?
Yeah, I mean, I like that there's always new apps coming out. As you know, Facebook, for example, is now really hard to kind of grow an account on. You have to work a lot harder on it. So it's cool to see how video is shaping the future of social, and that it kind of always keeps you on your toes. There's always something to learn. But yeah, it's cool seeing kind of the evolution of it in that way.
Yeah, so similar to you, social media was how I got into digital marketing back in 2008, 2009. And I really thought, oh, this is the true democratization of technology. It's going to change the world. We've obviously seen the good and bad of social media since then. But yeah, it's hard to keep up with all the changes here in social and in digital marketing as a whole. So I think it's very important these days that you have different people with different skill sets who can really understand and keep up to date with all the different tools and platforms out there. And I think I was going to ask you about that aspect to social media, the shiny new object syndrome, that there's always new platforms that are coming out. And I was just thinking back to, when Foursquare was around and how that was a big deal. And then why is no one mentioning Snapchat these days? That was a huge deal for a few years. And what are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's nice if you can afford it, if it's not your thing, to stay up to date. Like if you don't really enjoy that in the way that some people like myself do, to just hire someone on your team or put someone else in your company in charge of keeping up to date with these things. But also, like I said earlier, you don't have to use all of these new shiny apps, but just having an awareness. And as you start to see more and more of your competitors or people in your industry using them, then that's sort of a good sign that it might be worth investigating.
Yeah, and with things like TikTok now, what are the others doing to kind of catch up and compete with the attention that's grabbing with the newer generations?
Yeah, well, when TikTok started becoming popular, that's when Instagram changed some of their video formatting to more match TikTok, and then they added the stories after Snapchat was doing that. So TikTok or Instagram is always a little bit delayed with the trends, I find. They've already got everyone's attention there, and then they just want to keep it there. But yeah, different apps are coming up with new ways to connect with people, like using the stories and other features like that.
Yeah, I was seeing today some stats on Instagram. It's the 7th most visited website in the world. Like, wow. Yeah, these social media platforms have all the people on there, yeah, using them like portals to get, like you mentioned about Facebook, getting their news there, using it for all different purposes, like a search engine. And then, the biggest platforms do seem to stick around. Yeah. So YouTube, Meta, as it's now known, which is obviously Facebook and Instagram, these do still dominate. Yeah. Do you see that continuing over the next few years?
I think so. I mean, they've really stood the test of time. And unless something big happens or something else comes out that replaces it. For now, like you said, that's where people are getting their news. That's where people are sharing all their family photos and events and things still. So I don't see those going anywhere right now, but how you might need to tailor your marketing strategy for it will evolve. Because I think we'll be seeing people having to pay more and more on those apps to have their content featured.
Cool. And then I've heard you in the past mention something about privacy concerns with TikTok.
Definitely. I have a lot of privacy concerns with TikTok. They have a pretty invasive privacy policy that you can Google and read online. So if you're concerned about that, what you may want to do is have a burner phone, which I actually have friends in social media marketing who has a separate phone just for their TikTok business, as it's not so much that your business information is going to get leaked or shared, but when you authorize TikTok on your phone, it allows TikTok to actually see all the data on your phone. So it's more for your own personal privacy. They can see all the contacts in your phone, every app you have, how you use your phone. They can also tap into your Wi-Fi. So it's sort of like if it's worth it or not for your company. As a social media marketer, I've just come to embrace that, as it's important to stay up to date with things. But some companies do have that issue, and you can just always troubleshoot that by having a separate phone for TikTok if it concerns you.
Yeah, wow. Okay, so there's your tip from today's webinar. Get a burner phone. Who would have thought that would have come out of it?
Right.
Okay, so switching gears a little bit now to a focus on landscaper social media campaigns. All this knowledge that you've shared with us has really come from best practices that you've developed running campaigns for landscapers, and then also coming up with strategy and how to really inform people working there inside the companies who are running some of their own social media posts and campaigns. What are some of the most successful posts you've seen, or best use cases that you've seen of social media? Could you fill that in for us?
Yeah, a few that do really well are really amazing before and after pictures and videos, especially if you can do those sort of panorama videos that showcase the whole property, and then you write up a whole story about what products were used, what the client's vision was, how you brought that to life. Those do super well. And another post that does really well is just highlighting your team. People love to hear more and learn more about the actual landscapers on your team and what they're passionate about. So it's really important to kind of foster a good team and just find out if people are willing to share a bit more about them on your social, because we see huge engagement rates on those sorts of posts.
Yeah, and I loved your point about, be careful with salesy and overly promotional content and posts. Mm-hmm. Do you have any kind of rules as to how many posts should be informational, engaging, or promoting your partners or staff related versus, say, a special offer you've got for the coming season to do with, say, fall cleanup or maintenance, or something to do with design, whatever it is that you might have a promotion going for?
Yeah, the best standards these days are kind of the give, take from Gary Vee, I think is who coined that one. So for every 2 or 3 posts that you share that are informational, helpful, highlighting something in your company that isn't super salesy, then you can put one stronger call to action saying it's time to book your maintenance package, it's time to book your snow removal services. So keeping a rough balance of like 2 to 3 educational, helpful posts or funny posts. People love funny, creative content if you've got an angle for that. And then one salesy for every 2 or 3.
And then obviously you would have to pick your tools, really, your platforms where you would do that, because you wouldn't really be doing that at all, say, on TikTok, would you?
No, TikTok is a little bit of its own beast, as it's all about being creative and entertaining. And really, you only have a few seconds of someone's time on TikTok, like 2 to 3 seconds max, to make an impression. So you've got to have your concept down and be delivering entertainment really first. But if you can do that in a funny way, which a lot of landscapers are, you can go on there and check out some examples. People are very likely to click through and learn more about you.
And then depending on the size of your company, you might use social media in a different way. Yeah. And your resources are going to be much different in terms of how many staff hours you can dedicate to it, what your budget would be for spending on the pay-to-play model for social media. So for a smaller landscaping company, maybe under 1 million in revenues, how might that differ to, say, a company that's 5 to 10 million in revenues?
I think the main difference would be the budget you have for content creators to really put together polished, interesting, funny content. So if you're a little bit smaller, you still want to do the same as the bigger companies, which is have all the basics filled out correctly, all the right names, nice bios, nice write-ups. It doesn't cost you anything to spend a bit of time and get those basics done right. But as your company grows and your marketing budget grows as well, it's going to be really important to either hire someone in-house to help with this, or hire a contractor, or for you to develop the skill set yourself. Maybe you just take some courses or spend a bit of time personally learning how to put together content. As some of the bigger companies, especially on TikTok and Instagram, they have really cool videos showcasing their work. Those are not always cheap to develop, but when you look at the engagement and the impressions and how many clicks come through from those, they're worthwhile to include. But you don't need to strive for that right off the bat if your budget doesn't allow. Just make sure that you've got helpful, interesting content on there that matches your website. So smaller companies can really just start with that. And yeah, as your marketing budget grows, your content level can grow too.
Cool. And then for the different services, how might it, switch up for, say, design and install versus maintenance versus snow and ice, or some of the other services that landscapers perform, like carpentry? Are there any differences between these different services and how you would promote them or create social media posts for?
Yeah, I think it just comes down to being mindful of what season we're in. Obviously something like snow and ice is going to be really hyped up during the winter. I'm not really a big fan of having lots of separate Instagram accounts for all the different services you do. If you do them all under one umbrella, it just makes sense to have one account. But yeah, just being mindful on the season, as well as you might start to see some trends in-house as to what type of content on social converts to clients. So if you're always talking about maintenance packages on social media, but then no one's booking your maintenance packages, maybe you switch it up and try focusing on a different area and something a little more tangible, like, hey, did you know we'll come do a one-day fall cleanup, or come and do some gardening at just one time of the year. So you can switch up the content that way if you see people are coming through social through one area versus another.
And I think a big thing there is to think of who the customers are for your services. So whether it's residential or commercial, obviously then it's more B2C versus B2B, and what you would share there is very different. And the more targeted your audience is, the more pay to play comes into account, that you have to be really, rather than organically trying to reach them, you're running boosted posts, or you're running ads on social media that's really targeted at their demographics and locations.
Totally.
I think that's important. I don't know what happened there. There's something, some gremlins. They just reset the presentation.
Totally.
Zoom is playing tricks with us today.
And Mercury's not even in retrograde. What's going on?
I do have the slides back here, but we're still chatting through questions, so I'll carry on that.
Yeah.
But
something else I was going to share earlier, just about TikTok, for example, as it is a younger audience, is just in my personal life recently, my family needed to do some home repairs on their house. They needed a plumber, someone in general construction to come over, and they just tasked me as the adult child, oh, can you find us someone? So you might think that these homeowners and people booking larger landscape projects aren't using social as much, but keep in mind, as our parents' generation are aging, they're coming to younger family members and saying, look someone up for us, and I went to social immediately to find someone. So you might not think that your target audience is on there, but you'd be surprised at how parents are asking their children to find people for them now.
Wow. Yeah. So social media being used as a search engine, essentially, or a referral engine. Cool. And then here's a question for you. What about people who are very skeptical about social media and think it's a time drain for their company and staff? What would you say to them?
Well, whether you like it or not, your customers are on social. So it's important that you consider how you want them to see you on social. It doesn't have to be a big time drain. If it is, then you need to sort of look at setting some parameters for how much time do you spend. Can you get some content done in a 2-hour time block once a month to just schedule a few posts? And then can you set someone as the in-house team member to just be managing the account, sort of replying to comments, replying to messages on there. So you can set parameters so that it doesn't just evolve into some beast with no start and end time. But yeah, at the end of the day, your customers are there. So it's important that you consider how you want to show up for them.
Yeah, so as well as your customers, your competitors are going to be on there as well, aren't they? So
absolutely,
it is a bit of an attention war, just trying to get in front of people.
Totally.
I think you've covered this really well about the branding piece, the awareness piece, engagement. One thing that's super important to landscaping companies is recruitment and staffing.
Mm-hmm.
Which, you know, getting the right people for the right roles is very challenging post-COVID. What are some nice ways or ways that you can use social media to enhance your recruitment?
Yeah, something I've seen work really well is sharing videos that you create that just talk about why your team members love to work for you. If you don't already have a good team culture, that's something you want to have a look at too and see how you can improve, because it's hard to kind of fake something on social that isn't authentic with that strategy exactly. But yeah, highlighting different team members, highlighting that you're looking for more awesome people like those people to join your team. Those posts get a ton of engagement and clicks, and then you can have your call to action be come see what other jobs we're hiring for. We're always looking for great people. So I think that's really important, just highlighting happy team members and letting people know these are the people that we want to work with.
And what are the best platforms, do you think, for recruitment?
Instagram actually works really well. A lot of people that landscaping companies are hiring for are a little younger and are on Instagram. LinkedIn is great as well, just for sharing job opportunities, because other business owners can share those jobs. And Facebook too, because you can get really targeted with the ads on there and spend a little bit of money to make sure that your job listings are seen by the people you want. So kind of a combination of those three.
And on Instagram, would hashtag like landscaper jobs come into play? Things that people might easily be able to search and find posts related to?
Possibly, although if I'm being honest, your average Instagram user who's going to see this job opportunity are probably not searching via hashtag to start. But if you tag the location, such as Vancouver, people might see that pop up. And then if you've got job op at the top of the post, that might catch their attention. So I would say that's sort of the channel in which people are going to see it.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then just a final question before we jump into the trend section for the last 10 minutes. What about advertising on social media? What are your thoughts on the various advertising business platforms like Meta Business, LinkedIn ads, YouTube ads, TikTok, etc.?
Yeah, well, Meta is a big one, as that's for both Facebook and Instagram. And you can manage all of your ads in one portal for that. So you don't have to sign into Instagram and then Facebook. You can get quite specific with who sees your ads. And it's not that much money to have a lot of people see your content on there. And so I think that's really important to have in your overall marketing budget, because it's really hard for your content to get seen without those on those platforms. And because that's where so many people are hanging out, it's important that they see your content. TikTok, I don't actually think we have the ads available yet in Canada. They're in the US, so they'll probably be launched here soon. So yeah, you don't have to worry about TikTok ads quite yet, but YouTube's great as well, and it's fairly affordable. So you want to definitely consider that in your overall budget at the start of your fiscal year, so that you're able to use that.
Yeah, with YouTube, if you've got some well-made videos that you want to get views in your local surroundings, your service areas, it can be very affordable to get that in front of people. And so that's definitely an avenue that's worthwhile for awareness and engagement in your local area.